Alrighty, good morning everyone and welcome to another Aquarium Online Academy. My name is Tina, I'm one of the educators here at Aquarium of the Pacific, and I want to thank you so much for joining us today. We have a very fun program. We're going to be talking about some of my favorite animals, which are all of the ones behind me. But before I get too ahead of myself, I do want to introduce my very good friend Sergio, who's behind the camera, who's going to be controlling all of the wonderful magic that you're going to see on my screen behind me. This is live, so if you are currently watching us on July 30th at 9 a.m. Please feel free to interact with us, ask us questions, tell us your observations. You can go ahead and contact us at this phone number right down here, 562-286-1838, or go ahead and email us if you're watching at another point in time at live@lbaop.org. We do have staff that take care of that email at all times, so whenever you're watching this, please feel free to interact with us, ask us your questions, and we'll be sure to get back to you. But again, for right now, if you do happen to be watching by yourself or around your room, you have other scientists that want to watch and join in, please feel free to text us at that number or call us in with any kinds of questions that you might have. Alrighty, my friends, so today we are going to be learning all about the very, very fun world of invertebrates. Invertebrates, that's a really big word. Let's see if we have it. We can pull it up on the screen really quick because we're going to dissect that word. There it is. Perfect. Really, really fast. There might be a word in here that you are already familiar with. Now, if you're not, everyone do me a favor, kind of hunch your back a little bit. Hunch your back over and then feel your back. Put your hand on your back. Go right down the middle of your back. What you might be feeling are little bumps all down your back. Those little bumps, each individual bump, is one vertebrae. Now, we as vertebrate animals have a very, very long, strong spine all down our backs that help us stand up nice and straight. There's the word vertebrate. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to see if I can cover the T-E at the end. That says vertebra. So one vertebra makes up, well, a bunch of vertebra, make up your entire spine. So let's go back to the word invertebrate really quick, and let's try to figure out what invertebrate might mean. So we see vertebra again. We know vertebra is there. But let's focus on this in right over here. In's actually going to mean no. So altogether, this word means no vertebrae, otherwise known as no bones. So today we're going to be talking about animals that have no bones in their body. Now, if you've joined us here at the Aquarium of the Pacific before, you might be familiar with the picture that's behind me right now. But if not, no worries, because we're going to be talking all about it. Right behind me is a video of Coastal Corner. This is one of the habitats that we have here at the aquarium. This is actually our touch pool. So you have the opportunity to touch all of these wonderful animals that are within this habitat. I'm going to go ahead and step off screen for a second, and I want you to take a minute or so and make some observations. Observations are something that scientists do in order to help form their hypothesis, to help form some questions. So I'm going to step off. And what you can do, go ahead, maybe think about one thing that you notice. It could be a color, it could be a shape. If you already know what kind of animal is in here, you can also say what kind of animal you see. And then maybe form one question. It could be anything from why aren't they moving around so much? What might they eat? But again, take some time to do that right now. And if you would like, you can go ahead and text in those observations at 562-286-1838. Sergio is going to be monitoring those phone lines, so if you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to send them on in. Or again, if you're not watching us live, please feel free to email us at live@lbaop.org to still share some of those observations. All right, my friends, take another couple seconds or so for those observations, and then we will share what we see. All righty. I'm going to share a couple of the things that I noticed. First thing that I'm seeing is that a lot of these animals actually share pretty similar colors. I'm seeing a lot of pinks. I'm seeing some purple in here as well. I'm seeing some different shades of pink, maybe some orange in some of my sea stars over here. I'm also seeing a variety of different kinds of animals. And even though I'm seeing some similar animals, they also look different from each other. So, let's see. We might have a friend that noticed Ooh, our sea stars. Our sea stars, we have some smaller ones, like this one that's in this corner over here, and we have some very, very large ones, like we have down in these corners over here. These, oh, and another one right there. These sea stars are, of course, part of the invertebrate family, and if you want, I know I can't see you, but go ahead and hold up how many hands or how many arms our sea star has. If you put up 5, you'd be absolutely correct. So counting all together, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 arms on our sea star, which of course make up the points of a star as well. This one over here is called our bat star. Right off the bat, we can notice that our bat star is a lot smaller than the rest of these stars. Are ochre stars, like these guys over here. They also have a much smoother texture to their bodies. Our ochre stars and a couple of our other rainbow stars that are over here too have a lot of little bumps all around the outside of their body. These little bumps kind of act like a suit of armor. Do we have a close-up picture of a sea star with really, really good kind of bumps all over their body, Sergio? Let's see if we can pull one of those up for you guys. That way we can take a little bit of a better look, and we can figure out what does this help our sea stars accomplish. Oh yes, an ochre star would be perfect, but this is another really good view of that same touch pool as well. We're noticing a lot of our anemones are swaying in the ocean, in the current. Oh, and one of our fish stopped by to say hello as well. But my friends, what we're going to be talking about are what on these animals' bodies helps them to survive. So by looking at these really tiny bumps all over our sea stars, we might be able to think about what that could help them do. This is like, as I said before, a perfect picture, their suit of armor. So all of those white little polka dots that you're seeing all over their body, they're actually very, very bumpy. Now these animals are in a very, very fun family called the echinoderm family. That's a big word, but essentially what it means is spiny skin. So believe it or not, our sea stars and a couple other animals are related to each other. Let's go back to the big video of the coastal corner habitat and see what other animal can be a part of the spiny skin family. Go ahead and take a second and look around the habitat and see if you find another animal that seems to have spiky skin or spiny skin. Ooh, I'm kind of seeing one right, everyone see where my hand is? Right over here. This is a very, very interesting animal. It's actually the squishiest animal that is in this touch pool, believe it or not. But do we see right over here, we see little points. Do we think those points might be smooth, or do we think they might be spiny? Let's see if we can grab another close-up picture of what that animal is. Ooh, this is a beautiful picture. These, my friends, are sea cucumbers. Our sea cucumbers, although very, very squishy, they are a part of the echinoderm family because they have all of these spikes all over their body. Now, while they do look very, very spiky, they actually just use spikes to fool their predators. If you're a fish, you're swimming around, you see this guy kind of coasting on the bottom of the sand, I don't think you're going to want to get a big chomp out of this animal because they're going to see all of these spines all over their body. Now, our sea cucumbers play a very important role in our habitat here at the aquarium, but also out in nature. These guys are very, very important feeders of any leftover food, any leftover waste that lives within the ocean. They're pretty much like our cleanup crew, essentially. Alrighty, let's see if we can find another animal that has spiny skin on its body. That might be a part of the echinoderm family. Let's see. Looking around, making my observations. I think I see a couple. I see a bunch hiding in between these rocks over here, and I also see one right over here. These kind of look like really dangerous apples, is what I like to call them, because they're nice and round, just like an apple, but they have so many spines all over their body. Let's see if we can get a close-up picture of what this animal is. What do we think it is? Perfect! Our sea urchins! Our sea urchins come in a bunch of different colors. This one is a purple urchin, and it's actually sitting on another very, very important thing that exists within our kelp forest, which we'll talk about in a second. But look at all these spines all over its body. Now, what you might be able to see as well are tiny little tubes that are coming out from in between those spines. Those little tubes are something we like to call tubed feet. They're essentially thousands of little suction cups that line our both sea star and our sea urchins' bodies. This helps them not only stick to surfaces, but help them eat their food. Now, for both our sea stars and our sea urchins, their mouths are underneath their body. Remember how I said they're all in the same family? They're actually all cousins with each other, which is really, really cool. I want to jump over to my document camera real quick because I got some fun things to show. Oh, that's actually a really good picture. We'll look at this before we jump over to that camera. This is the underside of a sea urchin. I've actually never seen this picture before. This is very, very cool. Oh, perfect. And it's zoomed in. So those little white dots that you're seeing, all underneath our sea urchin, that is the tip of the suction cup that's sticking to the glass. Right in the middle over here, boop, that is their mouth. We call this Aristotle's lantern because very similar to a sea star, it has kind of like 5 points on it. Now, with this mouth, do you think that our sea urchin is going to be eating crab? Maybe not. Do we see any teeth in our sea urchin? No, I don't see any teeth in our sea urchin. These animals love to eat the kelp that we just saw that urchin's sitting on. They are herbivores, so they will only eat kind of plant matter. There's one specific portion of the kelp that they really love to eat the most, and it's the holdfast. The roots of the kelp that grab onto rocks and grab onto surfaces that help our kelp grow. Now let's jump over to my document camera really quick, because there are some connections that I would love for us to make with these animals. See if I can zoom out a little bit. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Excellent. So I do have a couple of animals over here that are all invertebrate animals. Excuse me. This, of course, being our sea star. So we see our 5 arms. Over here is what we call an urchin test. So this is what the inside of a sea urchin looks like after those spines kind of fall away. Some of us may see this if we eat seafood. This is also called uni. If you've ever eaten uni before, it is sea urchin. You might be noticing a very similar pattern. So we see our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 arms in our sea star. But do we see 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of 5 lines going down our urchin test? This is pretty cool, right? Going underneath, we see where our Aristotle's lantern was and the mouth of our sea star. For the sea stars, all of those tubed feet, those suction cups are going to be in between, or I should say underneath, all of their legs. And this also is going to help them stick to surfaces and eat their food. I'm going to go ahead and show you what the favorite food of our sea star might be. I'll go ahead and move these guys off to the side. This one might be a little bit too big, but do we know animals that look like this and then open up? Anyone want to guess what it is? A clam. Very, very good. What our sea stars do, they crawl on top of our clams and use their really powerful suction cups to open up the clam. They don't bite through the shell because, again, remember, they don't have teeth. But what they're going to do with their stomach, they can actually eat all of the juicy stuff that's inside of our clam. Let's see if we can go back to our pictures and find one with a sea star's stomach, or see a sea star's belly, or at least underside. Ah, perfect picture. So right in the middle over here, we're seeing a very similar pattern as we did on our sea urchin, right? In the middle of their body is where their mouth is. Everyone point to your mouth. Is it under your body? No. It's right in front of your face, right? Because this helps us eat. We use our hands to eat. Our sea stars and our sea urchins use their tubed feet to help them eat, which is a wonderful, wonderful adaptation. All right, let's go back to Coastal Corner and see if there's another animal that we can talk about really quick. Oh, awesome. Sergio actually has another picture of a sea star's stomach that we can check out. Oh, yeah. This is such an interesting video. So essentially, what sea stars do when they eat their food, they're actually able to spit out their stomach and use their stomach to eat their food before swallowing their stomach back inside of their body again. If you're very interested, definitely search up a video because it's a very, very interesting process. I will say that. So what you're seeing over here, all of this is a sea star stomach. All of this peach kind of tannish color, all sea star stomach right over here. Excellent. Alrighty, let's go ahead and go back to that coastal corner video. I'll step off again, and let's see what other animal we did not talk about yet that lives within this habitat. I am seeing a couple of very, very interesting animals. I'm seeing a couple of them right over here. I see a really big one right here. I see a smaller one right here. Another big one right over here. And one that I think is closed right over here. Does anyone want to guess what animal that might be? If you said anemone, you'd be absolutely correct, my friends. These anemones are super, super awesome. These little guys, this one's closed right over here. This one is also really, really cool because it's much larger than these guys. And that's because this one is called a fish-eating anemone. So they're going to be able to eat larger kinds of foods. Our smaller anemones, like our painted anemones, our giant green anemones right over here, these guys eat different kinds of shrimp and plankton. Let's see if we can get a close-up picture of an anemone. Let's see. Oh, this is excellent. So, I know we're kind of seeing spikes a little bit around our anemone, but these we don't necessarily call spikes. We call these their tentacles, or their stinging cells. Has anyone ever touched an anemone before? Yeah, maybe not. If not, that's totally fine. These animals use all of these little stinging cells to grab their food. As humans, we have a lot of layers of skin on our bodies, right? So when we are touching our anemones, what we're going to feel is stickiness. But if you were a very small animal, if you were that piece of shrimp, if you were that plankton, you'd actually get stung by these anemones. Right in the middle of their body, that is their mouth. So what they do when they eat, once they sting their food, they're going to close back up like we saw that anemone was closed just before. They're going to close up and they're going to go ahead and eat their food. Now, these animals kind of stay in place a majority of their life. They don't do too much moving around. They can move a spot, they can detach from the rock and find another rock if they so please, if they don't like the area that they live in anymore. What they have is a really big sticky foot right on the bottom of their body that helps them stick to surfaces. So basically, if my arm was an anemone, this would be the base of my anemone, and these would be my stinging cells and trying to grab my food. They can kind of move back and forth this way, but again, they can't jump up and grab their food, so they really wait for their food to come over to them. Now, there might be one animal. Oh, this is actually a really, really good video. What we're going to watch is our anemone open up. It's going to be very, very slow, but it's going to be worth it, I promise. Look at that, and look at the colors of this anemone too. This is one of our giant green anemones. You can already see a beautiful green color right in the middle of its body. And now it's slowly opening back up. Look at all of these stinging cells, all of these tentacles that they have all around their body. It's getting bigger. Oh, this is amazing. Perfect video, Sergio. Thank you. And we're starting to see their mouth right over here. Now, when we touch these animals, when we do interact with them in our touch pools, what we can do is use a gentle 2-finger touch. When we touch our anemones, we can touch the base of our anemone, and we can touch all around our anemone. What we don't want to do is take one finger or take our whole hand and put it right inside their mouth. That's because, well, you don't like it when people put their fingers in your mouth, right? Yeah, no. Anemones don't like it either. They can also get hurt that way too. So in order to make sure that these animals stay nice and safe, even with our sea stars, our sea urchins, we are always going to be using a gentle 2-finger touch. Do we remember what I said, or how I said these animals feel like? Yeah, very, very sticky. And that's because, again, we cannot feel their sting. Only really small fish, really small plankton are going to be able to feel their sting. Oh, excellent video. This is another beautiful picture of some of our giant green anemones as well. Is there any other animal that we think this anemone kind of looks like? It's another invertebrate animal that happens to be my absolute favorite invertebrate animal. We have them in another touch pool here at the aquarium, and they are absolutely gorgeous. Let's see. I have stinging cells. but I stay still this way. My stinging cells are this way. Is there an animal that's this but upside down and has stinging cells that move like this? What kind of animal do we think that might be? Let's see if Sergio can read my mind. What kind of animal are we going to be talking about next? Our jellies! Excellent, my friends. Now, some of us might be saying jellyfish. I'm going to debunk the word jellyfish for you. When we think of a fish, what are some characteristics that we immediately think about? The first thing you think of when you see a fish, you think of... Let me go ahead and grab a friend to help me out. I know the first thing I think of are fins. Fish have awesome fins that help them swim through the water. They have these pectoral fins, these side fins. They have a dorsal fin that helps them steer through the water, and their tail that helps push them through the water as well. Do we see fins on our jelly? I sure don't see any fins on our jelly. What about on our fish? What are all of these little patterns over here? Do we know what our fish are covered in? Very good. If you said scales, you are absolutely correct. Fish both need to have fins and they need to have scales all over their body. Do we see scales on our jelly? I don't see any scales on our jelly. Another thing, 2 more things that our fish need to have in order to be considered a fish. Right over here. They kind of move like that. Our gills. Our fish gills help us breathe, or help our fish breathe underwater. Do you see any gills on our jelly? No, I don't see any gills either. And one more thing. Our fish have bones in their body. What kinds of animals are we talking about today? That's right, invertebrate animals. Animals that have no bones. So our jellies don't share any characteristics with fish other than the fact that they live underwater in the ocean, right? They don't have bones. They don't have scales. They don't have fins. And they don't have gills on their body as well. So they are not a fish. That's why here at the aquarium, we call these guys our jellies, or sea jellies. Whatever floats your boat. Whatever makes your jelly swim, I guess. Same with our sea stars. We can say the exact same thing. Our sea stars don't have scales. They don't have gills. They don't have bones in their body. So instead of starfish and jellyfish, we say sea star and we say jelly, or our sea jelly. But back to talking about our connection between our anemones and our jellies. So our jellies kind of move a little bit like an opening and closing of an umbrella is what I like to put it as. Let's see, my friend Sergio is going to pull up a video of some jellies moving around too. Our jelly stinging cells are very much longer than, or at least this particular jelly is much longer than our anemone. They also have the advantage of being able to swim around. However, our jellies are not the best swimmers. Now, I mentioned plankton is a really big food source for a lot of our anemones. Plankton is a classification of animals that can't really swim very well against the current of the ocean. The jellies, they kind of just go wherever the waves take them, which I think is a pretty good way of living, especially if you're a jelly. So what these guys are able to do with all of these really long stinging cells is catch a lot more food, even though the ocean's kind of pushing them in different directions. This right over here is actually a video of one of the habitats that we have right here at the aquarium. These are all of our Pacific sea nettles. We're going to do some observations again, so I'm going to step off camera really quick, and I want you guys to take a look at how our jellies are moving around. Do we see another part of our jelly that we haven't talked about yet? I see 2 that we can talk about for sure. I'm seeing a lot of that opening and closing of the bell, just like, oh, perfect, just like this, right? Now, we saw those stinging cells. What we didn't talk about is that dome shape that helps our jellies move around a little bit. We call this the bell. Now, the jellies that we have here at the aquarium are different species of jellies, but here at the touch pool are moon jellies. Now, moon jellies are very, very special kinds of jellies because you can find them almost in any ocean with the exception of the really, really cold Arctic, right? So we can find them here in California, and I'm actually from New Jersey, and we would find moon jellies all over the beaches of New Jersey as well. This is a perfect picture of what our moon jellies look like. So we see that bell, right? We see that dome. They kind of look like a contact lens for all of my contact lens wearers out there. They look just like a little dome, a little half circle. But what we're not seeing are really, really long stinging cells. That's because these jellies have very, very small ones. So the only thing that they can catch are really, really tiny pieces of baby plankton. Oh, this is an excellent video of them swimming around. Look at how thin and small their stinging cells are. They kind of look like eyelashes a little bit, right? I'm seeing a theme. Contact lens, eyelashes. I guess these guys are the little eyes of the sea. But do we see any eyes on our jellies? No, we don't. Now, although these animals, all of our invertebrates, they don't really have eyes like we do, they don't have mouths like we do or faces like we do, that doesn't mean that they're not alive. These animals are alive and well, and they kind of vary in how aware they are of their surroundings. Although they look a lot different from us, they have wonderful adaptations that allow them to live in their wonderful environments and habitats. There's one more thing, one more part of the jellies that I want to talk about, and it's all these little frills that are kind of underneath their bodies. Whenever we touch our jellies, we always want to touch the bell of our jellies because not only is that safe for us to touch, but it's also safer for them to be touched because all of this wonderful frillies underneath their body are really, really important in making sure they're able to catch their food. If any of these get damaged in our jelly, they might not be able to eat very well. And of course, oh, this is the even better picture. All of these oral arms that once the food is stung, they go right into the oral arms to help our jellies eat. Now, my friends, we were able to just cover a lot about jellies in terms of how they move around, the different parts of their body, and the fact that they're actually related to our anemones. We talked about how our anemones are able to stay in place for a majority of their lives. They use those stinging cells to grab their food and bring them into their mouth, very similar to our jellies. We also debunked the myth of starfish and jellyfish, because we now know that there are different characteristics that fish need to have in order to be considered a fish, and how these animals are much different, and they are in fact not fish. They are all invertebrates. We discovered other animals in our touch pool at the aquarium, just like our sea stars and our sea urchins. We discovered that those two are also cousins, and they are a part of the echinoderm family, the spiny skin family. And what else did we talk about? We talked about our sea cucumbers as well and how they're also a part of that family. We discovered a lot of things together, my friends. I do want to say, if you have any final questions, please feel free to text them to 562-286-1838. Or again, if you're not watching us right now, you can go ahead and email us at live@lbaop.org. On behalf of everyone here at Aquarium of the Pacific, I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. I had so much fun discovering more of our invertebrates with you. That's another new word that we learned today as well, meaning no bones. And whenever you can, feel free to come on out to Aquarium of the Pacific in Long Beach, California, and visit all of these lovely, lovely animals and get to feel them and explore them a little bit more for yourself. Again, my name is Tina, and I've been here with my good friend Sergio. We want to thank you again, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. We will see you for our next Aquarium Online Academy. Have a wonderful day, everyone.